Hello, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live, all about Alpha 313. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and we are back in our LA studio. It's as the world slowly begins to return to normal, as more and more people begin to get their vaccine shots. More and more of us are slowly starting the return to the studio. I have now begun that because I'm vaccinated. Get vaccinated. And we thought we'd celebrate by redoing the set. We got a little tired of our red brick. Remember the red brick? It always made me, always felt like I was in grandma's basement doing the show. Not a big fan of the red brick. So one trip to Home Depot, and I just realized my DeWalt is still in the frame. I was literally hanging shelves this morning. And we're back. We're back in the studio. Joining us on the show this week are two of our esteemed pillar directors for the Star Citizen's Persistent Universe. Let's say hello to them now. We have Todd Pappy and Richard Tyrer. Todd, Rich, how you doing?
Hello. Good to see you
Hello.
guys.
Because every show is somebody's first show, let's just take a minute, introduce yourselves, tell folks what you do for the Persistent Universe, and we'll start with you, Todd, since you're the old hand. You've been here.
I'm just older than Rich. Um, so, my name's Todd Pappy. I'm the Star Citizen Live game director. So I'm basically working with Chris, Tony, Rich, and as well as the other directors that we have on the game, worrying about the releases that we're doing, as well as many of the features and content that we're putting in.
Yeah. And Rich, who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
Hello, I am Rich Tyra. I am the core gameplay director for Star Citizen. So I cover everything that is to do with the character and actor. So all of the FPS side of things like weapons and all the other like systemic core gameplay, such as like physical damage or inventory or, actor status and all of the things that sit on top.
Yeah. Now, this week's show is all about Alpha 313. Our 313 patch is currently available on the PTU for testing as it makes its way, through the various PTU phases on its way to our live environment. While the show is entitled All About Alpha 313, I do want to state that we do not have members from every single one of Star Citizen's team here for Alpha 313. While Todd and Rich are plugged into almost every aspect of Star Citizen's development in one way, shape, or form, they are going to stretch a little bit beyond their beyond their personal domains to see if we can answer questions throughout Star Citizen's development. Because as we all know, folks are working hard to get the patch into the live hands, so we try to impose on as few people as possible. So at this outset, thank you, Rich, and thank you, Todd, for taking this time at the end of the quarter when things are busy to be here on the show. So let's start in with the number one most voted up question that came from Spectrum. Now, we do take questions from Spectrum, which is our communication platform on robertspaceindustries.com, but you can also submit your questions live in the Twitch chat if you're watching now by prefacing your question with the word question in capital letters surrounded by brackets. That's going to help our community management team pull it out from all the other chat that's going on and send them on to me. But from the Spectrum thread, where folks got to vote, the number one voted question that we could address here today: why are the names so small on the ships that are nameable?
So I can take that one. So essentially, it's not designed to be that small. So it's a current limitation we're looking to fix later on. So currently, we have to account for a 32 character long names. And essentially, we can't dynamically scale the font size based off the length yet. So we do want to make them larger. But if we just made them larger right now, they'd become less sharp. And so obviously be compounded by the issue I just mentioned. So long term, we want to make them larger, but in the short term, this was just an interim solution to get it out.
Yeah, as is often the case with Star Citizen, that we have T0 implementations, then T1, then T2. This first implementation was just about getting the tech working and functioning and finding out all those things that we need to still address in the future, like one of these things, like the character limits and the scaling size and stuff like that. There were also lots of questions. We'll just get two of the big ones right out of the way. The ROC-DS, a brand new variant of the Graycat ROC mining vehicle. it was discovered in the PTU for patch 313. We'd been holding it back. It was one of those things we wanted to let people discover on their own in PTU. You don't know how many times I wanted to mention it in ISC, and we had it in footage. Like, no, we'll save it for PTU. And I'm like, I just want to show everything. I do want to say that we have a FAQ coming out on the website soon regarding the ROC-DS, where John Crew, who is our vehicle director, is there to answer a whole bunch of questions. So we're not going to touch too much on it today, but top level, what were our intentions for the ROC-DS? Who wants to
So
tackle that?
I'll jump in again. So the premise when we release a vehicle that has multiple seats or multiple operator seats is that it should always be a better experience playing with your friends than it is on your own. Now, that's not to mean that playing on your own shouldn't be fun. You shouldn't be able to do what you want. But in terms of the Green ROC-DS, the plan was that it should be a more efficient way of mining and a more efficient way of doing the activity that you want, rather than having two smaller mining vehicles where you can go and do what you want. Having one singular larger vehicle, it's got a more powerful beam. It has a longer reach that can reach into areas that you can't get. And I know that there's not necessarily that's something that's going to be beneficial straight out the box, but in the future when we add more accessible caves and things, that will become a factor. It's got 4 times the capacity of the base rock. And again, I know that a lot of people currently use the mining vehicle, say in the back of a ship. They'll fly to that location, mine, and then basically use the inventory system to basically take all the minables out, create a box in their cargo grid, and keep going. So obviously they've kind of circumvented the limitation of the capacity of the vehicle, but the creation of that box was always supposed to be a temporary placeholder thing. Mm-hmm. So eventually when we do proper physical inventory, which I've talked numerous times about,
check out calling all
creation
devs.
of the box. Yeah, the creation of that box was always supposed to be a placeholder situation. You were supposed to be able to you're supposed to be dealing with them on a manual basis. So eventually you'll have to remove those and basically be able to put them into your ship, but you won't just have this magic bag appearing in front of you. So when you talk about having the Green ROC-DS having 4 times the capacity, you're actually driving into caves that are accessible, got a longer reach, they've got a stronger beam. Then all of a sudden it becomes a reason like, okay, I get it. And when you're driving in the caves, you want somebody to be focusing on driving and not it tipping over and getting it, and because it's going to be rough terrain, and one person just focusing on the beam itself. So essentially that is the high level intentions. Obviously balance is subject to change depending on the feedback and what we get in there, but I think the first initial outset is looking pretty promising. I will say that obviously this information is being passed on through me via John to the community, but that is the intention. And I know that from a high level point of view, it's definitely something that I've been involved in terms of the intentions of multi-operator vehicles. So for example, for the tank, I'm always a big premise that you should be able to do the singular function singularly by yourself, but then adding more people in makes it a better experience. So if you just want to go into the smaller vehicle and do it by yourself, you can do that. But then if you go into the larger vehicle, in terms of the Green ROC-DS, it should be more efficient. You're coordinating with your buddies, and he's feeling like you've got purpose playing together. So that is the current reasoning and intentions.
Okay.
But like you said, John will no doubt go into the absolute nitty gritty of all the different decisions around that, but at least it gives everybody at least a high level idea.
Absolutely. Keep an eye out for the FAQ going up on the robertspaceindustries.com website. And if you're in PT now, continue to play, continue to comment, continue to leave feedback on it. Folks have already seen some minor changes to the Green ROC-DS already. I think it just got a different mining head and stuff like that. I've been prepping for this, so I haven't been paying attention to that. But that is precisely what PTU and even Live Environment, which is also a testing environment, is for. Keep using it, keep giving us your feedback, and keep letting us know what you think. And keep an eye out for that FAQ. All right, moving on. What other questions do we have coming in? Are there any plans to make new asteroids mineable or replace the existing mineable asteroids with a new organic texture?
There are plans, but first we need to fix the pipeline. Basically, there's a technical there are technical issues that basically the team run into, and it makes it a very painstaking process for them. So once we fix that technical issue, then we'll actually introduce new minables. So, and those are direct words from Ian.
Okay. Let's see. Will bulk cargo missions make an appearance with the upcoming release of the Hercules? Now, the Hercules is not coming in 3.13. It's coming in a 3.13X patch later on. But with the Hercules on its way, bulk cargo missions?
No, not with that one. So once we actually finish the cargo adjustments, then we'll start seeing the hauling missions. And so it's once that comes in, then we can do the different size SU boxes, so on and so forth. So then it makes the bulk hauling or makes it make sense, in these bigger ships that can do it. So.
Gotcha. You're talking about the currently underway kind of refactor of all of cargo.
Yes, sir.
That's going on.
Yes.
Anything you can tell us about that? State people.
That's underway.
That's what I figured. We'll cover it when it's ready to be covered.
I can tell you. I can give you. In terms of I can give you some information because obviously it's under the purview of inventories kind of thing.
Yeah.
Essentially, the biggest factor about refactor on the cargo side of things is making it physical. That's the biggest thing. So right now, for example, if you want to go and use the tractor beam to move cargo from point A to point B, or you want to pirate someone's cargo, you can't do that because even though the objects have collision and you don't walk through them or anything like that, they're not physically represented in the world in terms of you can't interact with them and pick them up and move them. So the first factor is that we want to make it physical so that you can do that, and that's part of the road to inventory, or physical inventory, shall we say. And that once we get there, that obviously then has many different tendrils that span off into okay, well, now you've bought something from the shop. How does the shop has to deliver it in a physical nature? Okay, well, how do those cargo boxes, how do you arrange them? Do we have some form of magnetic snapping system so that you can then put on the boxes? And it's never as simple as it sounds. Before my time, we created the box of one SCU size, which is actually 1.25 meters cubed. Unfortunately, 1.25 meters cubed doesn't divide well by one. So we have boxes in the world that are 50 by 50 by 50 centimeters. So clearly we have challenges to overcome when we're talking about stacking multiple boxes in your cargo in the physical nature. So there's lots of different knock-on effects. It's not just refactoring and doing the physicalization. So, but it is coming. It's being worked on. It's all gonna be put there eventually. But that at least gives you a tidbit into the cargo refactor.
Gotcha. And of course, we'll be covering it on ISC and stuff as it progresses and gets more solidified and stuff like that. We were just talking about the new physical inventory stuff. Is pickpocketing an intended feature for 3.13 or is it an oversight? People have discovered they can take things off of people right now. Is this a bug or is this a feature?
It is a bug, unfortunately. Yes, you can't roll Khajiit, you can't do sneaking, you can't pickpocket, unfortunately. So yes, it is currently a bug, and hopefully will be resolved. But that's not to say that when we do local inventory coming soon, that you will be able to steal other people's things. You just have to disable them first.
Okay. It's just a more aggressive form of pickpocketing. And I'm going to plug Calling All Devs one more time. Check it out. We did a whole episode recently about the whole future of inventory. Lots of good stuff, including the local inventory stuff that Richard just mentioned. with hull degradation, windshields can become extremely hard to see through. What's the plan for us being able to resolve this in the field without having to call in a repair shop?
Well, some ships in the PTU are doing it more than we want, and even at 100%, it's still more than we feel is makes it visible fly through. So we're fixing them as we go, and then some of them will be disabled for live if we can't fix it in time. And then obviously, if you guys are seeing this, playing PTU, please use the issue council to call out any of these things. It just helps us out in finding something that we might have overlooked. And then, obviously, in the future, you will need to go to a repair shop to fix this. I don't think Rich or I have talked about, okay, hey, I can go out there and magically clean this or squeegee it down just yet.
Have you seen those Mr. Clean magic erasers though? They're pretty.
They are wonderful. I use them as much as we can find them here in Germany.
Am I allowed to try to get sponsorships? I don't know. I'll talk to Toast afterwards.
Weirdly,
Shake your
just
head.
on a totally unrelated note, you can get a can that you can spray on, like you put like stickers.
Uh-huh.
My daughter's always putting stickers everywhere.
Yeah.
And you try and pull them off, and it leaves all the stuff. You can get a spray that you spray on that, and you just wipe it off. That
Glue gun.
stuff is.
Isn't that just
that
WD?
is-
We usually use WD-40 for that. Or
Fixes
Goo Gone.
everything. Yeah, Goo
I'm
Gone.
not sure. I'm not sure I'd want to spray that all over my house.
Actually, true story. The night crew at Home Depot, when I used to have to mop the entire floors at Home Depot, and they make us spray WD-40 on the mop before to basically give the concrete floor a shine. That was back in 1990.
Slip hazard.
That was back in 1997. I don't know if they still do it, but that's how they did it in 1997 when I was there. All right, there's a diversion. Mr. Clean, call me. How do we expect the new trolley push-pull and mounted machine guns to change the gameplay experience in Alpha 313? Todd, why don't you take this one?
This is actually Rich, but
I know.
But
Yeah.
Rich, go ahead and say your part, and then I'll chime in.
I think in 313 itself, it probably won't change the core experience. Those are features that have come from my teams, and generally in an ideal world, we'd release features with all the other teams that have coordinated on, and we'd get them live in a situation where they're fully integrated into all of the gameplay loops in the game. Star Citizen, though, is a vast game and has lots of different systems. So in this implementation, it's going to be very similar to when we released body dragging. It's the trolleys are there, the mounted guns are there in the locations that you can go and use them, and it means that we can get feedback for people from the field, and so it's already highlighted several issues on the Evocati and on PTU, like the trolleys, for example. They've been put in a location that's not really fully suitable for those kind of those gameplay mechanics right now. For example, there's stairs, there's elevators. The elevators and stairs, they don't really talk well nicely with the trolleys. But what we can get an idea of is, do the trolleys feel nice? Do they work? Obviously, we've got an issue right now where you keep disconnecting a bit, which we're looking into right now to improving. And then the mounted guns, for example, how do they feel? How do they play? So we're absolutely trying to push them live to get into people's hands so people can play with them, so we can get really good feedback on it. And then basically this will segue into what Todd's about to say in terms of the next iteration.
Yeah, so basically the way that our teams work, so a lot of times Rich is developing these new features, and then the content teams that I work with are about exploiting those features and using them in different ways. So usually what we do is, because you can see obviously they're still working on it, meaning they're still fixing bugs, they're still working through some of these issues, where we're at in the quarter, so I can't say, okay, this is exactly how we're going to use these things. until I actually get the feature and we can play around with it in missions or even just in sandbox experiences. So with these things, most of the time that Rich's teams are developing these things, we want them used in sandbox experiences. So you're coming around and you get to a location, and you're like, oh, I want to use this or I want to use that. But with missions, we need time to actually implement them into missions and be able to build missions around these features. So that's kind of how we work. We work in a staggered development. So Rich and his team develop these things, put them out, and then my teams take some time and basically implement them into sandbox experiences as well as missions.
And to be honest, a perfect example of that was the tractor beam. So we developed the tractor beam that went live in kind of the main patch, and then when Xenothreat came along, you could see it being used as part of the core feature of that mission. Now, if Xenothreat didn't exist, we'd have had tractor beam in the PU, and you'd been able to use it, and obviously it would have had a core use case of going in space. But that was a really good use case of that mechanic that really highlighted it. So that's when it works really well. That's the goal. And obviously, because we're in a live production, you get these kind of staggered development. And just on the case of what is the goal of mounted guns and trolley push pull in terms of how it is supposed to change the gameplay experience. In terms of trolleys themselves, we want that to be tying into moving cargo boxes and being able to have your cargo delivered to your hangar rather than just automatically spawning your ship, and then you'll have to manipulate up onto your similar to like if you drove to, I'm going to say Home Depot, although Home Depot doesn't exist in the UK, or B&Q, but you'd go to one of these warehouse stores and they would say, got to put it on the pallets there, and then you would think, okay, cool, I'm now going to load it into my vehicle. And that's the kind of premise that we want for trolleys. But we also want trolleys to be used in missions where it's like, a simple like Last of Us puzzle where it's like, okay, I need to be able to get up to a high location, so I can now move this trolley. It's got a box on it. I can mantle up the box, and now I can get to a higher location. So allowing it to unlock gateways. And on the mounted gun side, this is something that we've been really pushing on for the mixed arms combat, because you probably noticed that the mounted gun is a ship weapon. It takes down ships. It absolutely erases people, but it takes down ships. So the hope is that you can have a fortified location and fight back that fortified location, or AI can use it in the future to fight you back, and you've got to either go in on the ground and disable them, so then you can bring the ships in, or for later when we do player-owned locations and things like that. So it's all about offering different opportunities for attack and defense for mounted guns.
Absolutely. You're just talking about I don't know, something you said earlier reminded me. The first time I tried to push a trolley into an elevator, it shot it back at me and killed me. And I was just
yeah.
It's angry right now.
It was very angry. The elevator wanted nothing to do with that trolley. And
yeah, I mean, ideally, what we need to do. I mean, we've got quite a lot of bugs around the doors, because what should happen is that the door shouldn't close.
Right.
As an emergency, it's like if I go into an elevator now in work, if I'm stood in the elevator tries to shut, and then it detects them there, or it tries to crush me for a little bit, and then and then pops open, and that's what should happen. But clearly, game physics creates some fun things. But yeah, we need that just needs to be fixed on the game code side, and when we build them in, it gives us this additional quarter to fix those issues.
Part of me hopes there's always some way an elevator can kill you in the game, though.
There always will be.
Currently, the new mining head subcomponents are lost when you reclaim a ship, such as after a 30K. This could mean significant losses when a client or server crash happens, or when you're murdered while mining, or returning to a station, etc. Is this the correct behavior, or is this a bug?
Partially. So obviously the 30Ks and any sort of crashes and stuff like that need to be fixed, and that's on our side. So we need to fix those. However, if you die from combat or messing up mining, just putting too much juice into it, crash when landing or anything like that, you will lose the items. I mean, it's basically like you upgrading a ship or anything like that. You will lose the weapons unless we start getting into insurance. But that to me is a little bit at a later date. But yeah, the idea is that if it's something that you did versus a crash or a server crash or a client crash and stuff like that, then yeah, that's on you.
Fair, fair. Um, this question comes up a couple times. Are all flyable ships getting equipped with SDF shields visually and functionally with 313?
Um, So yes, all ships will have them. The new visuals predicate replacing the entire hull or old hit detection method. So under the hood, the gameplay is the same as before, but with better visuals and feedback. But yeah, the idea is that we're sweeping through every single one of them.
Yeah. Can't have the SDF shield visuals without the SDF shields for
Correct.
those visuals to
Yeah.
go on. It would be very confusing to have one without the other one. All right, let's see. Can we expect better frame rates in 313?
Right now, basically, we had something that was checked in or something that was removed on Thursday. So this morning when we came in, we did see better frame rate on the server. Now it's like 1 or 2 frames per second better, but it is better than what we have in 312 right now. So yeah, we're working towards it, obviously, but it's still not at the point that I think we're happy with, completely. But again, we're constantly doing optimizations. We're constantly going through and reviewing the rad captures on it and making sure that if there's a feature or if there's content that's causing something to spike, we can actually fix it.
And it's important to remember that the frame rate and optimization thing is something that's being tackled by multiple teams from multiple
Yeah.
angles. The graphics are working on stuff with the Gen 12 renderer. The network team is constantly working on stuff. You got the stuff for iCache and meshing and stuff that's all designed to help. So there's no one silver bullet for performance, and I think that's
No, unfortunately not. And then well, basically what happens is we're able to optimize a lot, and then every single quarter, obviously, we throw new stuff in, new features, new content, so on and so forth. So every time that happens, basically, we have to go through and sweep through those, make sure that those are optimized as well as they possibly can be, and then continue to optimize other things that maybe before might have been a little too risky or something like that. But obviously, with time, we were able to solve some of those issues and move forward with it with new code or even new ways of handling stuff on the content side.
Yeah, it's just I just want to take another moment. It's just really important to remember. We see the posts. I see the stuff on Spectrum and on social media and on Reddit and stuff. And we're waiting for this and waiting for this and stuff. It's really important to remember that, like object container streaming before and stuff like that, there's no one moment where everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. It is going to be this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this that will get us to where we want to go.
There is, in every game that I've ever worked on, and Todd's probably the same, there never is a silver bullet. It just doesn't exist. Performance is a death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes.
And essentially you have to look at those and look at where they are and identify them and working on them. But I know there's plenty of people on my team who are just purely dedicated to performance. There's definitely a big initiative this year to try and improve it. So we just have to evaluate and keep at it.
Yep. And when all is said and done, when we look back on it, we'll see that it's a collection of things. All this work from all these different teams that all work together in concert to get us to this performative a space that we're all working towards. So, okay. Sorry, just little expectations management there. It hurts me personally when I see people talk about, I'm just waiting for this because that's going to be the moment, when it's like, that's not how it works. Okay. What are the ship serial numbers based on?
So currently, we have a label basically called a GUID that is a persistent value or data tag that is associated with that ship. And essentially, it's called the ship entity GUID. And essentially, that is what it's based on. So it's persistent until you reclaim your ship, and then we entitle you a new ship, and then that has a different GUID. So essentially, it's a way. If you imagine we've got thousands of different entities, tens of thousands of different entities, well, actually hundreds of thousands of different entities in Star Citizen across all of the game, they all need to be uniquely identified. So we have this unique identifier that's assigned to all of these items. It's not just a ship, like everything has it. But yeah, for the ships, this was just something that we could base it on. It made sense, kind of like a number plate. They have to be unique. And that's it pretty much.
Hey, we got our first question about reputation system. For my money, the reputation system is one of the major parts of 313. This question asks, how hard will it be to switch sides once we have started going in one direction?
So this is going to be there's no real clear definitive answer on this because it depends. So if you're switching sides to a reputation that is at the direct opposite, if I'm going from the Order to the other side, then they basically, when I'm ranking up reputation in one, that might be decreasing it in another. So obviously then switching sides much harder. But if I'm going to a neutral faction where it didn't really decrease it as much, it might be less. So it really is a variable experience. And I think, that's a design, it's been designed that way. Some factions will hate each other more than others. Some will like more than others. So that's as the clearer answer I can give. Because obviously it's not just as simple as, everybody hates each other or vice versa.
And that's how it is in real life. Some people are easier to change their minds about you, and some people there's no amount of work you can do to get them to change their opinion of you. So I think that matches a lot of how real life works, which is always something that we strive for in Star Citizen. Spawn closets. Interesting. Spawn closets. Oh, I know why. Because the spawn closet card has been on the roadmap for a while now. It's currently in the 313 roadmap, but it's still listed as tentative and stuff like this. What can you tell us about spawn closets?
Well, it's in progress. I mean, it basically it allows us to have better control over the way that the AI spawning allows us to do the randomization, on it, so that we can randomly choose which ones are spawned, and then they don't look cloned. And then for us, in particular from a design perspective, it allows us to set up and do things a lot quicker, a lot easier. Now, for basically 313, it's not going in. For 313 later patch, we're basically going to be reviewing it, but for 313.0, it's not going in. But basically, we'll be trying to exploit it in very kind of small sequences and kind of test it and see how it rolls out. So we'll be testing it possibly in 313.1 or in 314.
Okay. I have loved. Oh, this is a question, not me. I mean, although I'm fond of them. I have loved the new big cave entrances. But will caves come that allow us to fly deep to the end of the cave and maybe out another part of the planet? I'd love to race my friends through a cave system.
Right now, the way that we think about caves is we haven't prototyped a huge like hole or anything like that, for you to fly in. And basically we tried one out a little bit, but like we haven't really gotten into it to basically say, okay, yeah, this feels right, you know. Um, Now, as far as linking up to holes, that to me is where, from a tech standpoint, I think that's a little bit more difficult. And then it's also just creating that content so it lines up perfectly. The For us to be able to drive into them or even fly into them and have more of a flight or driving experience into the caves, you know, or those entrances, yes, that is something that we're looking towards. And it could be that, yes, that's just the end of the cave and it doesn't, you know, branch out into the FPS area or anything like that. We want to be able to have all those options. Even looking forward in the future, the idea would be that it could be that you're going in from an underground facility and then that translates into a cave, you know, aspect. So obviously, kind of like what we have with the prisons and the escape aspect, but all of that wasn't necessarily built the same way that
Right.
we procedurally do our caves, and so that's the part that we're going to be looking at is how these adjust and how we're going to be moving forward with the caves is basically we'll be doing another pass on them. I think in Q4.
While we're talking about caves, are there any caves that have a lot of gem deposits to justify the use of the rock or the ROC-DS?
We have some, but it's not to the full extent that we want just yet. Again, these came in this quarter. We always give the teams a little bit more time. We place some minables in there, but then we'll evaluate it, you know, and look at the telemetry, you know, of players actually using it and players breaking it there in those caves, and then we'll be using it more in the future.
Okay. One of the new mission types coming in 313 are the new quantum sensitive cargo, like we saw during Xenothreat.
Hmm.
Will full loads of quantum sensitive cargo to trade be an option rather than just one box at a time?
Now, I'm assuming that they're talking about the turning in, you know, like sell all
Yeah.
instantly aspect. In the future, yes. I mean, we need to basically adjust the way that we do selling. Right now, it's not very friendly. Uh, but then, obviously, in the future, we will be looking at bigger quantum sensitive cargo in general. So, like versus just basically a zero point 0.5 by zero point 0.5 0.5 meter box, you know, we'll be looking at the big, you know, maybe 32 SCU boxes or the even a one or two that you have to use, you know, the cargo beam to use or the tractor beam to move around and to then, you know, be able to sell it in the ship kind of thing.
I just suddenly had this image in my head of one of the, not the quantum sensitive, but the motion sensitive cargo, a big one that you have to move by trolley over super rocky terrain. It's just like
The,
that
the,
mission.
the, the volatile one,
The
yeah.
volatile one, but it's too big for you to carry, so you have to use a trolley, and your path has to take you over the rockiest terrain, and just watching it. Hi, cat. So I just saw your cat.
Cat has entered the room.
It is honestly amazing how few cat moments we've had over the last year of work from home, all told. Let's see, what else do we got here? The proximity comms panels now work in the third-person point of view. Is this a bug or is it going away? And this question came from a lot of machinima people who are
Yeah.
hoping desperately that it stays.
Well, it's yes. I got your sarcasm there. It's a bug. It is going away. So the idea is that obviously with text, what we'll be doing is making sure that you can turn it on or off in the options menu.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So give them the choice.
Works. Is that a 313 thing or something later?
I've called it out for 313. So yeah,
Cool.
hopefully it gets done.
All right. Why do all the ground vehicles beat themselves to death in about 5 kilometers of driving, even if you don't hit anything? And are there any plans to look at this for 313?
Yeah, we have seen that issue. I think that we've resolved some of them. Now, there were some issues, kind of like just with uneven terrain and kind of the way that the the ships were basically damaging themselves, or the vehicles were damaging themselves as they drove over it. So, but basically, I don't know if we've gotten everything, but if you're playing it and you're seeing it happen, obviously, please use the issue council, and we'll try to we'll look at it and we'll try to get it resolved ASAP.
Okay. Let's see. From the live chat here, what is the state of trading in 313 after we merged the supply and demand from all the servers into one pool? Currently, this person says that they cannot buy any significant amount of commodities. Is this being looked into? Is this our intention? Is this where are we at with this?
I think it depends on kind of what they consider significant amount.
Okay.
So it in particular for certain shops and stuff like that, they're not supposed to be carrying a hell of a lot of inventory. So then, and then also the way that we refill that inventory changes and adjusts, and basically um, where it's currently at. In particular, with these changes going in now, we will be updating. I can guarantee you, we will be updating it. So, um, and then it will just be stuff that happens. I don't know if it can be hot fixed, and if it can be, then we'll update it right away, and won't require us to do a new patch. So
Let's see. Is it planned that the name of the ship also appears in the user HUD, but as well as the ship manager and the mobiGlass? Where do we plan for the ship names to appear? I guess is what they're asking.
Yes. So currently, the ASOP terminal and mobiGlass are built out of Flash. So we try not to do any amendments to those systems because they're going to be refactored into or redone in building blocks. So the plan is for them to be done, for them to be refactored and to have them be displayed there. And we also, which is under my remit, in redoing radar and scanning, they will be displayed as part of the scan. So when you scan a ship, all of the party information, the ship name, ship information that you get will be integrated into that one AR marker around the ship entity, and then you'll have all the other information on the scanning. So, yeah, the plan is to display it where it is. Anytime where you see the ship, you should see the ship name, but it's just a phased release because the mobiGlass is such a big entity. It needs to kind of be refactored, and that is something that is again in the pipes.
Will we see caves in asteroids?
it's
When we
something
get
that
the
we've
worm.
talked about. I mean, it's something we've talked about. One of the things that we'll be looking at in the future is basically different cave archetypes. Now, basically, I think it depends on obviously the size of the asteroid, and can it hold something that would actually feel warrants, a big enough cave or even creature, to be in there. But like I would love, there to be able to go out and explore those big caves and come into different creatures as well as different minerals and different challenges that obviously you could EVA through those things versus crawling through them.
Yeah, I think that's been that's been an old Star Citizen dream since the old asteroid hangar was first introduced, way back when.
Yeah.
Rich, as a follow-up to the ship names thing, will we be able to display ship names on our ASOP terminals?
Yes, again, that's the same deal with the Flash.
Okay.
ASOP terminal UI is currently built in Flash. Eventually, it will be transferred over to building blocks. When we do that work, the ship name should be displayed
Gotcha.
on the ASOP terminal.
Okay, I know it's such a conflicting thing because as I want to celebrate Flash with Flash Gordon, but it's like it's also a pain in my ass. So
You're not the only one that
I
has
know
that.
it's like it's just
Yeah.
it's so conflicting. Um, There are multiple exploits right now, which are affecting some of the most popular gameplay systems. Are the developers aware of this, and can we expect any adjustments regarding this issue or these issues?
So, I mean, Bayer brings up any ones that he knows about daily. So we do daily live sync meetings with basically the player relations in the community, and then from there they bring up anything that they're aware of. So uh, obviously we try to fix as many as we possibly can. Some of them still might not be fixed, but if I'm more than happy for people to call them out and basically bring it up again and say, you know, hey, let's fix this, or call it out on the issue council, and then basically Bear always brings it to our attention.
I would like to point out that here, let me switch to that. My dad text messages me. Oh, you can't see it; it's blurry. My dad text messages me about exploits. About there's a
Constantly?
UEC duplication thing, and please tell somebody and stuff like this. So I would appreciate uh, not getting these texts.
Just give him Bear's number, and then send it to him. Sorry, Mike.
I'm gonna do that. All right, let's see what else do we got. Back to reputation here. Will a server client crash lead to bad reputation?
So currently, reputation loss for missions occurs on mission failure, or if you abandon that mission. The current mission system doesn't differentiate between failure abandoned due to log out, disconnect, or you actually doing that. So right now it's kind of a one size fits all. Obviously we'll just keep it. Obviously things change going forward, but right now there's no differentiation between that.
Okay. Let's see. Is match speed back for all ships, or is it only for the Merlin when docking?
It's only available for docking, and it's automatically controlled when in the docking mode, and the constellation is targeted. So it's very specific right now.
Gotcha. Let's see. What is the reason and current state for shields not keeping up with speed in combat? A fast-moving ship is leaving its shield behind. Anybody do we don't have somebody from the vehicle team on the show here?
That sounds like a bug.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bug to me.
Well, the best I can tell you, whoever asked that is, I'll make sure to pass that along to John. And
yeah, I mean, we used to have stuff like you'd fire a missile and you'd be able to outpace the missile.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just these things are just bugs. They, like Todd says, they should. If you experience something like that, send it along to the issue council. It helps us a lot, and then we can look at it. Get it evaluated.
It's a selling point for a spaceship. Move so fast you leave your shield behind.
Shield behind.
There's also somebody asking if it's going to be possible to hide our ship names and ourselves, like broadcast no transponder. Maybe since you're part of the new radar scanning, you might have a thought on that.
Well, the premise long term, especially around radar scanning, is that everybody should be having a certain signature that they emit. That signature will obviously contain information because by UEE law kind of thing, you have to send it out. So when you scan something, you will obviously be able to find that information, but you have to be within a certain range to get that signature rating. You have to the ambient of the area that they're in. So if they're in the coil or they're in a gas cloud or something like that, then it's going to be harder to get that information. But then obviously if they're in your party, or they're in your guild or org or that kind of thing, then that information will be transmitted to you. So I know that we've talked a lot of times about bounty hunting and spoofing signals and things like that. So there's definitely long-term plans around hiding your identity, but it's not coming anytime soon.
Let's see. Let's go back to the chat. Now that a constellation in 313 counts as two spawn ships, the Connie and the Merlin, will you consider relaxing the player ship's spawn limit? Currently, if a player spawns a Connie, a ground vehicle, and any other vehicle, the Merlin immediately becomes the first candidate for despawn when it's docked.
I mean, right now it's all heavily tied to performance. So the more ships that we spawn, the worse the server gets, so on and so forth. So, you know, basically right now we believe everyone gets three per player currently, but the third is the first one to get cleaned up. You know, and then once we hit that limit, then it hits the second, so on and so forth. So, it is a known issue, and basically, ideally with server performance and other factors that are coming in, this will be helped, you know, and so then everybody can have three ships or three vehicles, you know, spawned, kind of thing.
We know from looking at the public roadmap and ISC this quarter that originally ship to station docking was on the docket for Alpha 313. It's not coming with 313.0. Can you give us an update on where it's at, how it's doing, when we might see it?
So actually, I missed a go no go.
We both
Yeah, that was happening
in this slot.
Yeah, basically in this slot. So 30 minutes ago. So I don't know. I haven't checked my email, but I'm assuming it was a go.
It was a go for like 13X or something, or
Yeah, basically. I'm assuming so. I think they were close last time. So, but
you're here and you're not there. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not there, so I can't answer it. But I'm assuming that, you know, that knowing that team and knowing how Dave works and everything like that, I'm sure it's tightened up a lot.
You just put a giant Toblerone at the end of a stick and you can get him to do anything. Is reputation affected by the deeds in unmonitored space?
Short answer is no. So essentially, reputation doesn't care about monitored or unmonitored space right now.
Right. Yeah. Reputation, will it expand into purchasing power for shops and vendors? Actually, there's a lot of questions in the chat about the kind of things reputation gets you, and we covered a lot of it on ISC. But since there's a giant number of questions, I think we should probably cover a little bit of it again. What are the benefits?
That's the plan. I mean, it's in essence, like if you think of frequent flyer miles or anything like that, you know, in real life, you use it, you get perks. It might be that you get an item for free. It might be that you get 10% off. It might be that you know, now it allows you to access it or load quicker, or you get, you know, moved to the front of the line, you know, per se on this stuff. So, you know, there's multiple ways for us to go through and, you know, do this and make sure that we're this to me is kind of gifting or unlocking stuff for the players and unlocking benefits for them, you know, one way or the other. So it could be that, you know, that benefit goes from 10% to 15% to 20%, or it could be that, you know, hey, you did so well. Now, you know, let's say with a certain oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the word. A certain corporation, you do well. Now you get to fly their ships, you know, or you get to fly one of their ships or something like that. So, let's say you're a delivery person or something like that. You move up to, let's say, a small delivery van, and then from there, in the future, maybe you get to drive a Caterpillar or something like that. That's branded, you know, Covalex or any other kind of thing. So that's the idea behind it, is based off of what they do, and kind of what's their they're geared towards, the mission givers or even the corporations. Then think of, that's the way that we'll be looking at gifting things and unlocking certain tiers.
And especially on the if you think about the ship progression in the game, the ship progression is very much driven economically. Obviously, you will have, um, you know, potential other ways, like Pod says, in terms of the reputation to be able to unlock different ships. But from an actor or FPS side of things, if you're if you own an Idris, the choice of which armor or which weapons or which food you should buy is obviously minuscule. You just buy the best that you can get because the pricing is never going to be the same on as an Idris. It's like saying to Jeff Bezos, hey, like which island do you want? And then in the same conversation go, which packet of crisps do you want? It just doesn't, it doesn't tie up in terms of progression. So reputation is definitely going to be the underpinning of the progression for the vertical progression of weapons and armor and all of the gadgets that you'll get access to. Because right now, for example, we have I think 30 plus weapons in Star Citizen that are live, and a lot of them provide different play style or what I'd classify as horizontal progression. So you could pick the P6LR, or you could pick the AXCAV. Now the AXCAV has more of an area of effect damage, whereas the P6LR is more about single strike. But it's a choice about play style rather than a choice about one is better than the other. And we do want to offer that vertical progression where you can get um, better performing, whether the barrel's been changed or different materials are used to go into making the gun or the innards, and so that they are direct upgrades. And those things are things that you shouldn't just be able to go to a store and just say, oh, look, it's an extra 10,000, credits or whatever. It's, those things should be locked behind the mission. And then that will give players a bit more clear objectives like, oh, I want to get that thing. I have to do X, Y, and Z. And then there's, it gives reason or purpose to the plays because obviously we have this giant sandbox environment and we're making a sandbox game, but it's nice to have objectives within inside that sandbox that then you can decide, okay, I want to go and do this, or my goal is to get a bigger ship, so I'm going to go do trading or mining because I need to get credits, or oh, I want to get this particular item or gear, so I'm going to do these specific missions. And then it gives, then you can work towards your own personal goals. So it definitely, reputation is going to be, it is a fundamental addition to the game.
Yeah.
So
I think it also goes to what Todd said earlier about putting the first version of a feature out, and then when it's working and functional, the other teams then look at how they can use it and begin to integrate it into their work. And I think there's a ton of opportunity for other teams, mission teams, content teams, feature teams, to all look at the reputation system when it's fully going and firing on all thrusters, to be like, how could we integrate this into our new content? The locations teams, all that stuff. There's just so many things that we can do with it. It's really exciting.
I like Rich said before, like I do view this as a linchpin, or maybe it was you that said it, but
Yeah.
I do view this as a fundamental building block, for the way that we unlock things and move the game forward for the players.
And it's a chance for our Star Citizens to become infamous. Infamous? Sorry. I have a Three Amigos moment here. We're almost out of time. Well, let's see if we can get one more question in. Will there be a complete wipe with Alpha 3.13 or only the usual wipe, like on the last patches?
The usual wipe. That's the plan. So unless something basically
Right.
hits the fan, then then we're not going to change it too much.
We always reserve that right.
Yeah.
That's why we're operating with a UEC instead of regular UEC. That's why we have this.
Exactly. But again, the reason why we don't want to wipe constantly is, again, this sounds wrong, is because we want to make sure that we're going through and we're earning a ship and stuff like that is a very long-term goal. Before like doing any sort of FPS purchases or anything like that, we always view those as short-term goals. But earning a ship, that's a long-term goal, and we want to see, okay, is that something that you need to grind for 3 months or 6 months or a year to get? And so just to see if our numbers are right, for tuning and those types of purposes. So obviously that ties back into the exploits. Yes, we want to know of any exploits because then that's shortcutting the goals and the goalposts and everything like that we have.
All right, Todd Pappy, you don't want to wipe constantly. Send the memes to Disco Lando on Twitter because I'd love to see them. All right, everybody,
Sounds wrong.
That's our show. That's our show. Thank you so much, Rich and Todd, for doing this, just coming on at the end of every quarter before these things. And this has become a Star Citizen tradition going back like the last 2 years now. So I appreciate you taking the time out and you're not being too surprised with me when I come up and like, it's time. And you're like, yeah, okay. You guys are really good sports, and I appreciate it. We are going to raid somebody. We're bringing the raids back. Looks like we're raiding. Let me see what the message from Tyler is, because they do it. Because I remember when I messed it up the first time. Space Cutlet. We're raiding Space Cutlet today. Space Cutlet is known for these CIG how about feedback tweets that I see on Twitter all the time. That's what I know him for. But he's a pretty good streamer. He should be streaming right now. So join in for the raid. For Todd, Rich, I'm Jared. Remember, new episodes of ISC return on April 22nd. And until then, see you in the verse. I never really developed an outro. It's like, I've been doing this for 7 years. I never developed an outro for the show. See you in the verse. What's the other show?
Jared out.
Jared out.